We are joined now by the head coach of your Creighton Bluejays baseball team, Ed Servais. Coach, how are you this morning?
I'm doing great. How you guys doing?
Coach, a lot better. Good to talk to you under a little happier circumstances, man. Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks a lot. It's been an interesting year to say the least.
Yeah, Coach, I kind of wanted to get into that. Obviously, you announced that this is going to be your last year. You've got the kind of coach and waiting situation as well. Just kind of how did the dynamics of that work, and how were you able to work through that to have a obviously really successful season?
Well, I think we all put our heads down and said, "Hey, we're doing this for the players."
Mm.
So we kind of all checked our egos at the door each and every day for the betterment of the players. I so desperately wanted the players to have a good experience and to enjoy some of these things that we're enjoying here the last several weeks.
Yeah.
So I give the players a ton of credit for hanging in there, seeing this thing through. We got 3 new coaches. We got all kinds of different philosophies going on. But I think we all had this in common. We wanted the players to have a good experience, and I think we've been able to accomplish that.
Coach, I think it's so understated, and I get accused of lacking objectivity because I've been a fan of yours for so long. But just classy, your demeanor, the consistency of the message. We didn't hear about the transition a ton. It wasn't a topic. You guys just kept winning baseball games. If you don't have some sort of a solid culture or something bigger than yourself that you can kind of rally around, seasons like this just can't happen. It seems understated and kind of taken for granted that the season went the way that it did.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It wasn't easy by any stretch for all of us. But again, I just applaud everybody for really putting the players first. And then I give a ton of credit to the players for being very open-minded.
Mm.
We didn't look very good in the fall, and we all had question marks in the fall. We didn't practice like we're used to seeing our teams practice. There was a lot of stuff going on, and I just thought, oh man, this may not work.
Yeah.
And the players' credit, they hung in there. We have a really good nucleus of older players on this team that really took some ownership. And as well as anybody, when your players take ownership, you got a chance to be pretty successful. And that's what they did. I'm just glad we didn't have to play a lot of games in the fall because it may not have been good, but we had time to kind of get on the same page, get the players on the same page, and it's been a nice ride since.
You talk about older guys. How cool is it? And you didn't have him for as long as you maybe wanted this season, but Dom bounces back. He's pitching well now. Big second half of the season. Kind of embodies or at least typifies kind of what you're about, right? Hang in there. You battled during the time he was gone. I mean, you lose your ace, and it just seems like an uphill grind every Friday and Saturday of a series, right? And he comes back at the end. He's getting his awards, kind of getting his flowers laid. How much has he kind of meant to this program and just his ability to come back and perform the way that he has?
Well, I'm real proud of Dom. There was a lot of question marks. He had surgery this summer.
Yeah.
And when you have surgery, it was major surgery. None of us knew for sure if and when he would be able to come back. And I saw him take his work ethic to another level. He was more determined than any of the other years I've had him here at Creighton to get back, to be a contributor, to take on that Friday role, which is so important in college baseball. And, we didn't have him the first several weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So you're right. We were piecing things together. We didn't know how we were going to do it. We'd get to Saturday sometimes, and we didn't know who would be pitching on Saturday, let alone Sunday, until we got some of our guys back. But once we got, Dom back and he started to establish himself, we kind of build him up a little bit so he could go 4, 5, 6, 7 innings. It's been huge. And I'm just so grateful that he's experiencing some positive things and getting some awards and getting some acknowledgments, because he did a lot of work when the lights were not on this off season, and he deserves a lot of credit. He's really changed his outlook on a lot of things. I've seen a lot of growth with Dom, and that's one of the beauties of sport. Not only do you see a player develop as a baseball player or an athlete, you see him develop as a person. And I give Dom a lot of credit. I've seen as much development as a person as I had as a baseball player.
Coach, so obviously the early season without Dom led to obviously some challenges, but long term, do you actually think that helped the depth of your pitching staff? You got what, 6 guys that have pitched at least 40 innings, and as we're going through these regionals and talking to other coaches and looking at other teams, not a lot of teams have the pitching depth of quality arms with innings and experience that you guys do. Long term, when you get into this regional scenario, do you think that's actually going to end up being a positive?
Yes, it is. And you're absolutely right. As much of a struggle as it was to piece things together in the early part of the year, it does provide us, if we have to go through a loser's bracket situation, if we have to play a fourth game here at a regional, we'll be able to run a guy out there that's been out there a lot instead of just kind of hold your breath and run a young player who's maybe got 10 innings or so under his belt. So, some of those early struggles of figuring out how we're going to manipulate a game and who's going to pitch and who's not. And then once we started to get our guys back, we got Dom back, we got Jack Pino back, we got Shea Went back. It just gave us a lot more depth. This is the most depth we've ever had for our pitchers. And we're as healthy. We've got one player, Eli Nissen, was not able to play this year because of an injury, which he would have been our Friday guy. Dom would have probably been the Saturday guy. Other than that, we're going into these regionals healthy as anybody could imagine at this time of year, and that's what gets me excited. Is we'll be able to go out there with a good unit.
It's interesting too. In our group text, we Coach, we got kind of this our nerdy group text, and it's me, Ravi, D. Marinas, Padilla. We're talking baseball, and you mentioned getting Went back, and obviously as a Blair guy. And I was telling these guys early in that first inning, I don't know much, right? But I'm saying, wow, got by the first, got by the second. I think it was about 2 2/3, maybe third. I go, they're going to get 3 innings out of him. This is going to be fantastic. You bring him back out for the fourth, and it's going kind of the way you want it. Just kind of a testament. It's funny you brought him up because we were talking about him specifically over the weekend where when you're dealing. Yeah, when you're able to do that and it works out, and he's not used to starting, guys just stepping up continually, even at the tail end of the Big East tournament, and that title has been a little bit elusive, you still get like a testament to what your program is about, and that's competitive stamina. Like it's uncanny.
Yeah, he did a fantastic job, and there was a lot of stress. We thought we were in good shape going into the championship game. Now that they picked the regional teams, we realized we needed to win that game.
Yeah.
We thought if we went into the regionals and won 2 games, that we'd be in good shape. So we went into that game, and the players, to their credit, wanted to win that championship. They didn't want to settle for an at-large bid. They wanted that automatic bid. They were determined to win that championship. And then you run Shea out there. There's a lot of stress. There's a lot of pressure. You could just feel it. You could cut it with a knife, and he goes out there and he's got his fastball. He's 93 to 95 with his fastball, and they're not catching it. They're not catching up to it. And we're going, oh boy, we can get us some outs, and we can get into the second half of the game, and then we got a chance. And that's not always the case with a pitcher. You can tell pretty early if the pitcher's got his stuff that day, and Shea had it. And then when he got into the dugout, and I would tell him, hey, I need 3 more outs, you could just tell him his eyes that he was going to be able to do it. So we don't have a chance in that game without him. And the early part of that game, everybody talks about the back end of the game. To me, the start of those games are hugely important. And same thing with these regionals coming up here tomorrow against KU. It'll likely not be the end of the game. It'll be the front part of that game that determines a lot of what happens.
Coach, so I got to ask you, because you're talking to Went as he's coming back in the dugout, and I'll give you a little more behind the curtains with what was going on with that chat than DB did. I don't think you wanted to throw me under the bus, but I'm sitting there and I go, okay, he started to struggle a little bit in the 3rd inning. Seemed like the control was getting away from him a little bit. And I go, ooh, if he can get through this, probably got to feel really good about pulling him after the inning and then, going to the bullpen. He comes out for the 4th. What was the decision-making process talking to Shea as he comes back into the dugout and you say, hey, let's go run you back out for to start another inning, and how much of it had to do with the fact that you were able to get a couple runs across to feel like maybe you had some cushion there?
Yeah, the runs helped. But I look at the stuff of the pitcher, and his stuff didn't deteriorate at all.
Yeah.
He was into the 60s and climbing to 70, and that we thought if we could get him into the 70s, that would probably be it.
Mm-hmm.
But his stuff was still there. His fastball was still there. His location had disappeared a little bit, but his stuff was there. So it just came down to, maybe making some slight adjustments. But when Shea came in the dugout, all we were asking at that point going into the fourth inning is, hey, how about another out or two? Because I'm counting outs at that point. I'm thinking, okay, we got 18 outs. Who do we have available? We got Garrett on the back end. We know we can get 6 out of Garrett if we need to. And then, okay, who's going to go between? Is it going to be a Matt Ackerman? Is it going to be, and so we're sitting there counting outs and then looking at pitchers who are available and then looking at the matchup too. Looking at Connecticut with our own eyes instead of on video, you can see how they're swinging that particular day and which one of our pitchers matches up better against those hitters. So that was all going on. In the meantime, we're just trying to milk another out or two out of Shea. And he got up to 73 pitches, which is great. He's feeling good now. He'll be involved obviously this weekend, but again, I can't say enough about him. His poise and composure in a really situation that he's probably never been in before. And how he handled it was impressive.
How about North? I'm going to save my favorite for last because I'm an unabashed Nolan Sailors guy, just haven't played with and against his dad for so long, but I'll save him for last. But how about North kind of getting it going this last third of the season? It seemed like it kind of started with the Nebraska game, and I mean, he's just kind of been on a tear, one of those guys, just a junior that, I mean, playing his best baseball, especially offensively at the end of the season.
Well, he's got over 50. He's got, I think, 55 RBIs, and you start getting into the 50 range.
Yeah.
That says a lot, for a college player. And a lot of folks.
That's right on the number too, Coach. It's almost like stats.
Yeah. And I don't have them sitting in front of me either. So, but a lot of folks don't factor in that Ben made a switch from third to short. And if you're a casual fan, you say, well, what's the big deal? It's an infield position. Those infielders should be able to play every position. And part of that's probably accurate, but there's a lot more on the page of a shortstop versus a third baseman as far as your responsibilities on the field. And for him to take that on willingly, he didn't ever question the fact that when we moved him from third to short this fall, and then for it not to affect his offense. A lot of times when you make positional changes, it affects the offense of the player. That's the last thing you wanted to do with Ben, because I think his best days are still ahead of him. I think he's got a bright future. He can play a lot of baseball.
He's got a great frame.
Yeah, he does. He's very powerful. And anybody who's ever seen him play is impressed with his arm strength. I mean, we haven't had too many guys that throw a ball across the infield like he does. But I give him a lot of credit for making a positional change and not having it affect his offense. And then that maturity level that you see in these young players, it just brings a smile to my face. Because I saw Ben as a freshman, kind of wobbly out there a little bit, good days, bad days, good days, bad days. And now you see a consistent, mature, poised athlete who knows that, hey, I got to contribute in order for us to have a chance to win today. And he's taking that on. So, you can't win with some of these. We've had just tremendous output from these upperclassmen. And I'm glad you recognize Ben, because he kind of falls under the radar a little bit because of the season Nolan's had and the season Connor Capizzi's had. Sometimes people forget about Ben, but I certainly don't. I appreciate him each and every day.
It's not often you see a guy he's got he slugs over 550. He's only been caught stealing 3 times, and he's flirted with 400 again. I mean, when you've seen so many good hitters, Coach, what is it about Nolan's approach at the plate that you think allows him to function at such a high level as a hitter?
Well, Nolan has tremendous bat speed. He's a very twitchy athlete. We don't see enough twitchy athletes playing baseball. They appear to drift into other sports, So Nolan is unique that way in that he is very twitchy. I love it when he hits a ball in the gap to watch him run. It's one of the coolest things when he tries to run an extra base hit into a triple. I mean, it's really impressive. And I made a couple mistakes coaching third this year where I probably should have sent him because his speed has even caught me off guard.
Yeah.
So I'm just impressed with his athleticism. He's worked hard to build his body up.
He was
like
much
Division
bigger.
I
I was watching those interviews early in the preseason. I told
Mhm.
his dad, I was like, "Well, the strength and conditioning has treated Nolan well. He looked good, like a big,
Yes, he
strong
does.
kid."
Yes, he does, and he deserves all the credit. I mean, he spends a lot of time in the weight room. He spends a lot of time in the off season, building himself up, taking care of himself, eating right. Um, and then the next thing that Nolan needed to make a jump with, and he's done a pretty good job this year, but he will continue to get better at it the more he plays, is controlling the strike zone.
Yeah.
The reason why some of these guys hit well and some of them don't is they swing at pitches that aren't strikes. You can make this hitting stuff as complicated as you choose. I choose not to. It comes down to getting a good pitch to hit. And somebody says, well, that's not easy either. No, it's not. But I think that's why Nolan has taken another jump offensively is he's controlling the strike zone much better than he did when he was a younger player. And when he gets a good pitch to hit, it's hard to get him out.
Yeah.
And then he's also incorporated the bunt game into his game, which I encouraged him to do because he's such a good runner. And he's gotten several bunt base hits this year, which sometimes when you're not seeing the ball particularly well on a certain day, it's a good thing to have in your back pocket.
Coach, I'll get you out on this. We're going to talk to Kansas play-by-play guy tomorrow and kind of get a preview and to cap the series. When you look at what they've been able to do in the Big 12 conference and kind of the seed you drew, what is it that interests you and kind of a plan, maybe not a plan of attack, but what you have to neutralize with this Jayhawks bunch?
Well, we got to slow them down offensively.
Yeah.
This is a very, very offensive club. And they've got well over 200 extra base hits. They got 100 home runs. Now, they do play in an offensive ballpark, and so that could be skewed a little bit. But we know we're going to have to keep the ball in the ballpark, and we're going to have to pitch with good height. We can't make a lot of mistakes in the upper part of the zone. And then we got to eliminate the free opportunities, too, because when you run against a good offensive team, they're going to get a run or two or more.
Yeah.
You just can't pile on. And I've told our team the last 2 days, we have to avoid the big inning being 3 runs or more. If they get a run here, a run there, we can trust our offense that we can hang with them. But if we start putting up those crooked numbers, it's going to be a tough day for us. So we have a pretty good plan in place. We'll see if we can execute it. But this is going to be one of the better offensive teams we've seen all season, and that's what they hang their hat on. I mean, they're an offensive club, and they're an older veteran team. I mean, every guy's a senior. I think they start one junior. The rest of them are seniors and grad guys. So it's an old team that knows how to play, that was tested in the Big 12. So, but we're looking forward to it. This is a great atmosphere down here at Fayetteville. They know how to host a regional. Our guys are so excited to have the opportunity to prove on this stage what kind of club we are.
It's an easy, fast drive too, Coach. Just did it last summer, man. I'm hoping fans will be in attendance and best wishes to you.
Thanks a lot. We appreciate it.
Coach, thanks so much for joining us. Good luck.
Thanks.